Tonight, after a second violent incident at a Toronto high school, parents are concerned about the safety of their children.
They're bringing in guns into supposed to be a safe learning environment.
We'll have the latest on the shooting at Victoria Park Collegiate and what parents want the TDSB to do about the violence. Plus,
it's not as if she's going to have fingerprints on file or if we're even able to recover fingerprints from the remains.
As police prepare to update the case of a child's remains found in a Rosedale dumpster, we have new details about the investigative challenges ahead for officers. And
over half a tank, $62. That's crazy.
Trying to limit my driving and using the TTC as much as possible.
With gas expected to breach the $2 a liter mark this weekend, will the cost put a damper on summer road trips? First, tonight, police continue to search for a suspect in a shooting outside Victoria Park Collegiate yesterday. A 17-year-old boy was shot and seriously injured. This latest violent incident at the school has parents concerned for the physical and mental health of students. Alicia Son has more.
A shooting outside school. Terrifying for students and parents who were emotional at school pickup today.
Sad that it's happening, right? Sad that kids are bringing in guns into supposed to be a safe learning environment.
Yesterday's shooting happened outside Ashina Reichman's daughter's class.
Some of the kids in her classroom saw the incidents. She's a little bit shaken up by the whole situation.
Unfortunately, it's the second time in 6 months that Victoria Park Collegiate has seen this kind of violence on school grounds. In November, grade 11 student Mahir Dosani. After that, Shiraz Meghani's son didn't want to go to school.
So I did not send my son for almost a whole week.
Yesterday, a grade 11 boy was shot. Thankfully, his injuries weren't life-threatening, but the back-to-back trauma has parents worried about their kids.
He said, I want to get out of this college as soon as possible because I'm feeling scared.
Today, school counselors were on site, talking to students, helping them process the trauma of what they witnessed.
You allow space for young people to talk if they want to. You try to maintain as much routine and order as possible.
Parents can help with this too.
And really in the first couple of days to a week, it's really maintaining everyone's basic things that everyone forgets about after a trauma. They're hydrating, they're eating, they have someone to talk to.
At Victoria Park Collegiate, to have 2 grave instances of violence in the same school year, this child and youth psychologist says post-traumatic stress is something that needs to be watched for.
So they sometimes will look like they're more on edge. They have a harder time focusing.
Dr. Gajaria says it's healthy to eventually talk solutions.
Are there things you want to see change? What would help you feel safer in your school or in your community?
With just 1 month of school left, the Victoria Park Collegiate community will look to end the school year safely and hopefully with some closure in the police investigation, which is ongoing. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The OPP have charged a 26-year-old man in connection with the 2020 shooting death of Alex Tobin. Tobin was shot in a King Street East apartment in Omimi. He was just 18 years old when he died. Police released this video last month of 2 suspects leaving the apartment building on foot around the time it happened before getting into a car and driving off on Highway 7. Today, police announced the arrest of Jeremy Brown from Ajax. He has been charged with second-degree murder and with failing to comply with release conditions. He appeared in court yesterday. Police are still searching for 2 more suspects. There is a $50,000 reward for anyone whose information leads to an arrest and conviction in the case. And police have arrested and charged a Toronto man in a fatal hit-and-run in Mississauga last year. It happened on December 17th near Dundas and Dixie Road. 35-year-old Suresh Starmakula-Singham from Markham was struck while attempting to walk back to his parked tractor-trailer across the road. He was transported to hospital in life-threatening condition where he later died. Family and friends gathered at the scene a month later, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. And today, police say they arrested and charged 38-year-old Luke Conkin with failing to remain at the scene of a fatal accident. He is set to appear in a Brampton court in July. Toronto police say they'll have to rely on dental records and DNA to identify a young girl found dead in a Rosedale dumpster. The girl's body was discovered last week, but police believe she may have died last year. Thomas Daigle looks at the challenges investigators are up against.
who could hatch a plan to move the body of a young child dead for months. And who was that girl recently found in a dumpster near this Toronto home? Days after the gruesome discovery, investigators still have few options to answer many questions.
It's not as if she's going to have fingerprints on file, or if we're even able to recover fingerprints from the remains. We're going to be relying on things such as dental records and DNA.
Last week, police stunned the city by revealing that body found in a dumpster belonged to an unidentified girl. Between 4 and 7 years old, black, and likely dead since last year. Relying on dental records to identify a body may sound routine, but
this presumes, of course, that the child was properly cared for and brought to the dentist regularly, that x-rays were taken, and for that matter, that the dentist was in Ontario.
Police are banking on the 2 blankets used to wrap the child's body. These images released to the public in hopes someone will spot the distinct patterns and make a connection.
There's something being hid here. The DNA is probably going to give them a lot of information, especially if someone in the family has taken a test.
It's simple to start making fascinating discoveries.
As in, even if a distant relative used a genealogy site like Ancestry.com, it could narrow the field. But that's a long, painstaking process, and police work also demands luck. Consider the unidentified remains found in Toronto parks 23 years ago. Police analyzed the limbs, but it took a kindergarten teacher to come forward with a child's finger painting to identify 5-year-old Farah Khan, who'd been murdered by her parents.
It's going to take a while. It's not an overnight solution to get one of these solved.
Police say they're examining cases of missing children, but haven't yet found a match. They expect to provide an update to the public in the coming days. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Court heard more testimony today in the trial of Jacob Hogard. Friends of one of Hogard's accusers gave their accounts of events following one of the alleged incidents. Hogard's pleaded not guilty to charges of sexual assault and sexual interference. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson reports, and a warning, the story contains graphic details.
The second week of Jacob Hogard's sexual assault trial wrapped up with an admission of a mistake. On Wednesday, the jury was played 2 video clips of CBC interviews presented as being with Hogard's accuser from Ottawa. Today, the judge told the jury this video was a mistake by the defense team. The speaker is not the complainant. The clip has nothing to do with our trial. It was played to the complainant by mistake.
Well, you never, as a defense lawyer, want to have a judge tell a jury the morning of that there's maybe been an error or an oversight. That's something that you worry stays with the jury a little bit too long.
The person in the video says she was recovering from a major surgery. Hogard's defense team suggested it was proof the Ottawa woman was constantly changing her story. At the time it was played, it made the accuser break down in tears. She also got emotional today when the Crown prosecutor asked her how she felt hearing a recorded phone call between her and Hogard. Very, very upset to hear him talk so calmly about something that was so horrific to me. Hogard's lawyer zeroed in on text messages between Hogard and the woman. Defense, he also told you, I only meant to treat you how you seemed comfortable with. Complainant 2, correct. And your response was, no worries, maybe just overreacting, it's all good. Complainant 2, correct. Prosecution also brought up other witnesses, the Ottawa woman's friends and roommates. They said that following the alleged incident, she seemed distraught, like a changed person, that she was limping and had a hard time sitting down. The prosecution wraps up its arguments on Monday. Jacob Hogard is expected to take the stand later this month. He denies all the charges against him. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The TTC is facing a lawsuit tonight from the woman who was pushed onto the subway tracks last month. The lawsuit is seeking damages of $1 million. Samja Al-Balushi was pushed to the tracks on April 17th at the Bloor-Yonge station. She narrowly avoided being hit by a train. The lawsuit claims Al-Balushi waited 30 minutes for help after she was pushed. It says she suffered broken ribs and bruising and is now suffering from post-traumatic stress. The suit alleges the TTC is liable because it failed to implement sufficient safety protocols, didn't have adequate surveillance of the platform, and failed to respond promptly to the incident. The TTC says it can't comment on the suit because it is ongoing legal matter. Another week, another record at the pumps. Gas prices are expected to climb once again overnight and pass the $2 a litre mark by Sunday. Natalie Collada has more.
Over half a tank, $62. That's crazy.
Louise Pasco is filling up before the price of gas jumps tomorrow. But even so, the high prices at the pump are taking a toll.
I think it's ridiculous. I have to go up north every weekend, and it's costing me a fortune.
Prices for gas are expected to rise to $2.02 Saturday, and then again on Sunday.
$184.35 plus 13%.
Doing the math, even professional gas price predictors are shocked.
Wow. 207.9 on Sunday. Tomorrow's a record, Sunday's a record, and that will hold at least until we see if there's any change Wednesday.
Causing many drivers to change their plans and how they get around.
I'm trying to limit my driving and using the TTC as much as possible and cycling around the city and limiting my trips outside the city as a result.
According to a survey by the Tire and Rubber Association, 64% of Ontario drivers are planning to cancel or limit road trips this summer. If you are planning to hit the road, there are things you can do, like making sure your tires are properly inflated to maximize your mileage.
Driving at a steady speed, accelerating slowly, coasting gently. If you've got to still have your ski racks or roof racks on your cars, you might want to take those off. Use your air conditioning sparingly. And according to Natural Resources Canada, these fuel-saving techniques can save, up to 25%.
All helpful, say experts, particularly with higher prices at the pumps expected to stick around.
Higher, dramatic prices like this have an impact, and we can discuss all the reasons for it. But there's no doubt that this is hyperinflation. It's an energy super bubble, and it's not likely to end anytime soon.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
It's a good thing we don't have to drive anywhere to find all that sunshine, Dahlia, and it's free.
That's right. And I mean, even if you are driving, at least you got some sunshine to look at, am I right? So starting off with the normal highs, usually this time of year it's 19 degrees, and we are sitting well above that right now, 26 degrees. The normal low is 9 degrees, and today's low is 13 degrees. So we're even sitting above that normal low today. Right now, we are sitting at 23 degrees, which is still lovely outside, giving us that summer-like conditions. And Sarnia, 28. If we take a look at Ottawa, 28. And the reason it's going to feel like 26 degrees today is because of that humidity that we're feeling, which is giving us those summer-like conditions. Hamilton, 27, Sarnia 32. And if we look at the clouds, well, there's barely any, which is giving us that lovely clear sky, which carries through into the evening, giving us that summer-like evening temperatures, 13 degrees. Afternoon tomorrow, still in the double digits, 27 degrees with that lovely sunshine.
Dahlia.
Thanks, Dwight.
All right, I know it was rough last night having to play the refs too, right? It is gut check time for our Toronto Maple Leafs. Tomorrow, our Leafs will play a do-or-die winner-take-all Game 7 in their first-round playoff series with the Tampa Bay Lightning. This after a tough overtime loss last night. And as Greg Ross tells us, Leaf fans are hoping the team can exorcise some demons that have been haunting them.
Already today with the nerves, it's like, here we go again.
Leafs fan Mark Farah admits he's got some butterflies in his stomach with his team now heading into Game 7 tomorrow. He says it's hard not to be nervous, having experienced so much playoff disappointment in recent years.
Centers, shot, rebound, score!
Last night was the 8th time since 2018 that the Leafs have had a chance to close out a playoff series, and for the 8th time, they failed to get the job done.
Different effort, different team, same results. And that's kind of where we seem to find ourselves every year during this time. There's been definitely an energy that hangs over top that kind of reminds me of the past number of years.
While many Leaf fans are having trouble forgetting the past, Leafs players are doing their best to put a positive spin on tomorrow's game.
I'm really looking forward to playing in that game. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere for sure.
Leafs defenseman Mark Giordano says he's excited about playing in a Game 7 with a chance to win the series in front of the home fans. Justin Hall says The fact that the series is going to a 7th and deciding game shouldn't be a surprise.
You know, we knew that they weren't going to make it easy on us, and all these games are tight, all these series are tight, so it's just going to come down to executing tomorrow and being ready to go.
The Leafs missed a big opportunity to close out the series last night and advance to the second round of the playoffs for the first time since 2004. But Coach Sheldon Keefe says there are a lot of positives to take from the way the Leafs played in the past couple of games.
It's the belief we have in our group. You look at the fact that it's our top players here that are executing it at critical times and helping us find our way back. The team's playing well as a group. All those things combined give us great confidence going into the final game here.
If the Leafs can pull off the victory tomorrow, Leaf fans will finally get a chance to release 18 years of pent-up frustration.
Will you be on the streets of Toronto celebrating this victory if they're able to do it?
I've already told my friends and coworkers that if the Leafs win tomorrow night, you might have to send out a search party for me because I'm not sure where I'll end up.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
The latest update from the CBC News Ontario poll tracker puts Doug Ford and his PC party ahead of their nearest rivals, the Liberals, by more than 8 percentage points. That lead could help explain the PC's strategy of limiting Ford's exposure to the media. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
For the first 5 days of the election campaign, the PC leader Doug Ford held daily news conferences.
Well, great question, and thank you for that.
Taking questions from reporters in Bowmanville, Sault Ste. Marie, and Timmins. But then Ford went 3 straight days without any scheduled media events, and when he re-emerged...
I've been in front of the press 7 times out of 8 days. So I think that's a pretty good percentage.
After the Northern Ontario debate ended, Ford skipped out on reporters' questions, unlike all the other leaders.
I believe that he's left the building.
Your thoughts?
I think it's arrogant. I think it's disrespectful.
He doesn't need to drive the news. What he needs to do, what his campaign is probably relying on, is to run a disciplined and cautious campaign where you're not making mistakes, where you're not, creating some sort of story.
Ford has not done any full-length interviews with major media outlets during the campaign. It's all designed to reduce the risk of unexpected questions that might push him into unscripted territory.
It's the prerogative of each party to determine which interviews they want to take and how far out they want to put their leader. The PCs have decided that they want to focus on a central message and not be knocked off that course.
In the southwestern Ontario town of Staples, Ford's photo op of carrying cucumbers allows a quick exchange with CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick.
Why wasn't ODSP in the budget? Was it not a priority?
Well, we're raising it at the rate of inflation, 5%. I know it's very tough for those folks, but we're going to make sure we take care of them.
But why didn't you...
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Megan.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
Today in Windsor,
anyone who has a question, please line up over here. It's one question.
Ford took questions for 15 minutes from every reporter in line. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
In the provincial election campaign, all the main political parties are promising more money for home care. The NDP leader touted her plan today. Lorinda Redekop has a look at the promises and advice from one senior who relies on that extra help.
NDP leader Andrea Horvath met with seniors in a backyard in southwestern Ontario to announce her party's home care plan.
Nobody wants to be pushed into a long-term care home or stuck in a hospital bed without the option of staying at home.
The NDP is offering an extra $1 billion to improve the system, upping pay for workers, plus another way to keep seniors at home, property tax deferral, to save them money until they sell their home.
So that seniors who are at a bit of a financial crossroads can take that weight off of their backs, and average would be about between $300 and $400 a month.
The PCs are offering $1 billion for home care over 3 years, including for staff recruitment and retention.
Home care also helps to reduce pressures on other healthcare settings.
The Liberals have committed $2 billion and what they call a home care first strategy.
We will lead a revolution in seniors care in this province that truly puts what seniors want, what seniors deserve, at the center of all of our decision making.
Rob Snow has MS and receives home care twice a day. It allows him to still work full time.
They need better pay. They need to be compensated for
the travel that they perform.
2 staff have to help him out of his wheelchair, and when only one shows up, his wife becomes the second. They say it's happening more this year than ever before.
Neither one of us are spring chickens. I'm, a 200-pound man, and it's not easy to transfer, me from chair to bed if you're 66 years old.
It put a lot of strain and stress on us. It's 9 o'clock at night, somebody doesn't show up, and now what do? There's nobody in the office to call, and even if there is, they can't get anyone here.
She wants whoever wins the election to recognize the importance of home care workers. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford is campaigning today in Windsor, Essex. It's a location where he's made some big announcements lately. It's also been an NDP stronghold for a decade. But that's something the PCs think they can change. Lisa Shing has more.
I got lots of work to do this year.
At this downtown hair salon, owner Angelina Ebegbuze hears a lot about issues Windsorites care about.
Wage increase, cost of living, housing, homelessness.
She doesn't know who she'll vote for yet, but says she'll support whoever tackles them.
In the last 3 years, especially during COVID, has been very bad for the downtown core.
You've seen what's happened under the NDP, and that is nothing. Give us one shot. Great to see you.
PC leader Doug Ford is trying to convince voters his party has the solutions in a Labour town that's traditionally voted Liberal and most recently NDP.
Do you really think voters are going to abandon the NDP this time around?
I truly believe so. The whole land is shifted right now.
Leading up to the election, he and the federal government made several high-profile announcements here together. The biggest, a multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle battery plant that could bring thousands of jobs. A big deal for the region that's seen hard times since the decline of the auto industry.
No disrespect to the NDP. I couldn't even tell you who the MPPs are because they never speak down there. They have no, Windsor has no voice down there. Do you know who their acting MPP is? Is Mayor Dilkins. He's wearing 2 hats.
We've worked really hard to fight for those auto jobs over many, many years.
Another reason the PCs are eyeing Windsor. 2 NDP MPPs here aren't seeking re-election. Andrea Horvath was also here this week bolstering her new candidates.
People of Windsor know that New Democrats always fight for them and put their priorities first.
But who Windsorites vote for could depend on whether the fallout of the pandemic factors in. Windsor was hit hard. Hospitals were short-staffed as patients flooded in. Outgoing Mayor of Amherstburg in Essex County has seen it firsthand.
It is probably even a little more contentious than usual. And it's like many things now, probably a result of the pandemic. There was a lot of passion.
A lot of people opposed lockdown measures. There was the Ambassador Bridge blockade against vaccine mandates. But the optimism that the economy can finally turn around with the electric vehicle battery plant could just be enough to trump the last 2 years, according to this political scientist.
So this was a city down on its luck. And this investment really breathes new life into the city and its future.
And it plays into Ford's strategy to appeal to working people. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Windsor.
The mayor was on hand today as a visual effects and animation studio opened a new location in the King West District.
This company here in its Toronto installation has gone from 0 to 150 employees in 6 months, with more to come. There are empty workspaces back there which they intend to fill.
The work that we do spans everything from pre-visualization when a story is being imagined, all the way through to post-production, the delivery of the final film.
And they just won an Oscar. I think you can see the Oscar right there. The company is called DNEG. They also have offices in Montreal and Vancouver. DNEG says there is a surging worldwide demand right now for visual effects, animation, and virtual production services. The Vatican has announced that Pope Francis will be in Canada from July 24th to the 29th. The much-anticipated trip is being planned with the 85-year-old pontiff's health in mind as he deals with a painful and chronic nerve condition that has limited his mobility. And while he recently issued a historic apology from Rome, residential school survivors have maintained that it still needs to be delivered here in Canada. David Thurton has more.
Pope Francis is following up on a promise he made to the indigenous delegations last month at the Vatican.
to visit Canada and make an apology on Indigenous land. He'll do that the last week of July, but because of the Pontiff's age and health issues, the trip will be limited in scope.
In spite of these severe limits on his mobility, that he is determined to come to Canada to be with them.
Visiting 3 capital cities, the Pope will go to Edmonton, Quebec City, and up north to Iqaluit, all in less than a week. Residential school survivors have long called for an apology on home soil.
I would like to hear him say, "I am sorry, and I want to move healing and reconciliation from our church, from the Roman Catholic Church, on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church, to the Indigenous people of Canada." That's what I would like to see him say.
Trudeau called the upcoming papal visit good news.
It'll be extremely important that he deliver the apology from the Catholic Church to residential school survivors and their families. It's going to be an important time in the path of reconciliation.
But one national Indigenous leader is calling for more consultations and more stops.
If the Pope had more time, ideally we would hope that he would go to different places, that he would go to, as many places as our communities want him to go.
At this Catholic parish that serves Edmonton's Indigenous communities, one of the pastors says the papal apology is needed for true reconciliation.
And so it's very important for us, when we're making an apology, when we want to deepen reconciliation, that the deeper you bow in contrition can be a measure of the depth of the reconciliation that you will follow.
Pope Francis has previously apologized for the conduct of some individuals, but there are calls for him to go further, recognizing the residential school system should have never existed in the first place. David Thurton, CBC.
Toronto City Council has voted to move forward with a plan to hire private security guards to patrol some city parks.
This will cost, it was confirmed yesterday, thousands of dollars. But if you tell me that to have an early warning system that allows us to get the street outreach workers to those parks where we see a tent being set up to offer those people safe indoor housing, and at the same time make sure that we don't have encampments established in parks that are meant for everybody, I would say that to spend a few thousand on that, and when we're spending hundreds of millions to create the places they can go with safe indoor housing, is a perfectly responsible thing to do.
The guards will be brought in to patrol 4 parks, according to the mayor. It's all in an effort to prevent homeless encampments from being set up. One councillor wanted the decision to be put off so council could get more information about the plan. However, last night that motion was voted down. The city is in the process of requesting bids from security providers. The guards could be in place by the summer. Hundreds of pro-life and pro-choice protesters took to Queen's Park today. This comes after a leaked U.S. Supreme Court draft decision document breathed new life into the anti-abortion movement.
Abortion is a human rights violation, and we're here to defend the rights of preborn children, but also to spare women the trauma of abortion.
As long as they're here trying to, fight for our choices to be taken away, we're going to be here fighting and making sure that that never happens. What is happening down south in the States cannot happen here.
An attempt to enshrine abortion rights into American law failed in the U.S. Senate earlier this week. The Women's Health Protection Act was an effort to preempt the impact of a potential ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, which could overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortion nationwide in 1973. And today, protesters gathered in Toronto for the city's annual March for Life. Members of Planned Parenthood were among those who showed up to counter-protest. A similar march took place yesterday in Ottawa. The battle for the Donbass region is grinding on in eastern Ukraine, with neither side seeing a major breakthrough. But news reports say Russian forces suffered heavy losses earlier this week after Ukrainians damaged a floating bridge. Video released by Ukraine shows the partly submerged pontoon bridge and several damaged or destroyed military vehicles. UK officials say Ukrainian forces have prevented a river crossing attempt by Russians in the Donbass. Today, Ukraine's defense minister said that heavy weapons from the West are making their way to the front lines, but he admits that they are entering a new long-term phase of the war with Russia with no end in sight. Ukrainian forces say they've been steadily forcing enemy soldiers to retreat from parts of Kharkiv, but that hasn't stopped Russia from targeting the area. Briar Stewart reports from near a building that had served as a humanitarian center before it was destroyed in an overnight strike.
I'm in the city of Derhatchy. This is about 40 kilometers from Russia's border and about 10 kilometers from the front line. And right behind me, this was a cultural center that was hit by a missile and a rocket twice in the last 24 hours. And during the war, it had been used as a place to store humanitarian aid. So after this happened, first thing this morning, not only did you have the fire department show up, but you had volunteers that were picking through the rubble, trying to salvage things like diapers and formula. And this is an area where there had been good news in recent days because Ukraine had managed to push back some of the Russian troops further away from Kharkiv. And instead what's happening now is you see Russia's military having a really kind of concentrated push around the Donetsk and the Luhansk area. But even in an area where, you know, it's been kind of relatively quiet for the last couple of weeks, you can still have something like this happen right in the middle of the city and just be absolutely devastating for the community. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Derhatchy.
Foreign ministers from the G7 nations, including Canada, are in Germany to discuss further support to help Ukraine. The 7 top diplomats invited their counterparts from Ukraine and Moldova to join them for the traditional family photo. The focus of their talks will be largely on the Russian invasion, including financial and military aid for Ukraine. They are also expected to discuss eventual reconstruction efforts to help the country after the war. The 3-day meeting wraps up Saturday. Israeli police clashed with Palestinian mourners today at the funeral for the Al Jazeera journalist killed Wednesday in the West Bank. It started when mourners began chanting and waving Palestinian flags. Police say they were hit with rocks, and at one point the casket nearly fell to the ground, a scene that the UN described as shocking. Al Jazeera is condemning the police. Shireen Abu Akleh covered the Middle East for 2 decades but died last week while covering an Israeli raid. Palestinians are demanding an internationally led investigation. The ice jam that has flooded an area south of Great Slave Lake in the Northwest Territories has broken up, but ice both up and down the stream from the location means the risk is not gone. The water in the Hay River region has lowered, but the evacuation order remains. Damage is severe, and with an overwhelmed sewer system and power cuts to water treatment plant, any residents remaining are under a boil water advisory. Across the border in northern Alberta, residents from several First Nations remain displaced. Flooded areas of southern Manitoba have left residents worried. Forecast heavy rain missed some areas today, but hit others. And we have the sun now, but some rain is also heading our way, Dahlia.
That's right, Dwight. But I mean, you still have some time to enjoy that sunshine till this evening, maybe hit up a patio or go out for a run. So if we take a look right now, a few clouds going into the evening, but it's still nice to be out. You can enjoy the rest of the evening. And tomorrow is going to be that lovely sunshine, that patio time that you can enjoy. But as we head off into the weekend, you get the chance of showers. Current temperatures in Toronto right now, 23 degrees, Kitchener 26, Mississauga 23, St. Catharines 24. And as we have that humidity, it gives us that lovely summer-like conditions, 26 degrees today. Hope you have your sunglasses with you. Kitchener 28, Oshawa 27, Markham 29. And no clouds in sight, really, not that much. I mean, slowly peeking through. But as we head into the weekend, we will see more of that, which I'll get to in a second. But right now, there's that high pressure, which is giving us that warmer conditions. But as that starts to break down and we head into the weekend and that precipitation starts to come in. So Saturday, tomorrow, 8 a.m., still looking pretty clear in Toronto. But it starts to peek through a little bit as we head into Sunday at 6 p.m. You see a little bit of those clouds coming through. Monday, you start off and you see that green. That's the rain coming through, that precipitation. Get your umbrellas ready as you start off your work week. Overnight tonight, Toronto is going to be sitting at 13 degrees, which is lovely. It feels like a summer night. Hamilton, 14 degrees, Oshawa, 13. And looking at the next few days, tomorrow, like I mentioned earlier, is 27 degrees, but it's going to feel like 32 because of that humidity that's sticking around. In the evening, we get those summer night feelings. Sunday, a little bit of rain that is expected. It'll still be light, 12 degrees by the evening. Weather starts to cool down as we head off into the work week. So Monday, 21 degrees, get your umbrellas ready. 9 degrees by the evening, 4 degrees Tuesday by the evening, 18 and 19 Tuesday and Wednesday. Still that sunshine peeking through, which is always nice to have your work week go on.
Thank you, Dahlia.
Thanks, Dwight.
And as we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX started to rise up again by 400 points. The Dow also rising by 466 points. And our dollar traded higher at 77.20 cents US. Stay with us. We're coming right back. It is a big weekend for the Canadian music industry. The 51st Juno Awards happen Sunday. This year, the ceremony takes place outdoors at Budweiser Stage on the shores of Lake Ontario. Eli Glasner is there right now. So, Eli, how are things looking down there?
It's looking spectacular, Dwight. There's a little chance of rain on Sunday, but I think those chances are fading away. We got a little preview of the show on the big stage behind me for Sunday, and this is a big Junos for so many reasons. It's the first time, believe it or not, they've been at an outdoor venue, and of course it's the first time in like 3 years that we've had a Junos with fans, with musicians in front of fans. So to get that energy coming back and then looking at the lineup of performers with Simu Liu hosting the show, our own Marvel superhero, the Arkells, Arcade Fire, Tesher, Baby No Money, and more. So an incredible mix of artists, including DJ Shub. Now, he is performing with Snotty Nose Rez Kids. This is an indigenous hip-hop, well, I guess you could call them trio right now. And as I said, I mean, so many of us, music fans and musicians, they've been disconnected from that energy, from that audience. So here's Shub talking about getting back on stage.
Live music, for me anyways, is inspirational. You know, that's where I got my inspiration from when writing music. So just to get back in front of people and just to play music again is fantastic. It's a great feeling. You know, during our rehearsals, I just been getting chills up there, you know, waiting for this to happen. So I can't wait.
Now, he's performing with Snotty Nose Rez Kids, this amazing hip-hop duo, indigenous group from Vancouver. I've been watching them get bigger and bigger over the years, and you could say the same thing about kind of the urban indigenous music scene. I mean, it started with bands like A Tribe Called Red, and now you see how well Rez Kids are doing, and they were talking to us about just the energy that they're getting from the community and the success that they're enjoying. Take a listen.
I feel like we're at a time where that our ancestors have worked generation after generation for to get us to where we are here right now. And I feel like it's not the industry, it's artists like Buffy St. Marie, it's artists like Tribe Called Red, it's artists like us, DJ Shub, that are paving that way, and then the industry is catching on and starting to realize that, oh, these guys actually deserve some recognition. So I feel like it's a good time to be indigenous. It's a good time to be an ally.
It was so great. I was talking to them, and they were talking about, you know, hanging out at a friend's place and listening to concerts happening at Ontario Place and just hearing that sound kind of float across the water. And now they're going to be on that stage, and they couldn't be more hyped.
Yeah, very cool. Some great hip-hop coming out of indigenous communities right across this country right now. So what does this live show mean for the music industry overall, Eli?
Well, you know, we were talking to Alan Reed. He is Mr. Junos. He is the president of the Canadian Recording Academy of Arts and Sciences. And he was kind of saying this is the unofficial start of the summer concert season. I mean, think about it, Dwight. For so long during the pandemic, we've had touring not happening. We've had iconic venues in Toronto closing their doors. So musicians are really kind of chomping at the bit to get back on stage. And it's funny, they were telling me right after the Junos, the next concert is Megadeth. So, you know, concerts are back one way or another, but it's really, it couldn't come at a more needed time. So a lot of people really happy to see this all happening again.
It is an awards show, so we have to talk about the nominees. So who do you think will have a good night, Eli?
You know, I think the race I love the most is that The Weeknd and Justin Bieber are both tied with 5 nominations each. So do you go with, like, the Peaches song? Do you go with The Weeknd? The Junos love The Weeknd. He has won many times here, but, I mean, Bieber is Bieber. He's on tour, so he won't be collecting any awards come Sunday. I think it's going to be a great weekend for the weekend, but at the same time, as I mentioned, TikTok, there's all these musicians that found an audience during the pandemic. They are going to be on the stage behind me come Sunday, so it'll be great to see kind of a mix of the iconic and some of those new voices on Sunday. Dwight?
Yeah, going to a pre-Juno party tonight to celebrate Maestro Fresh West. It's going to be a good weekend in Toronto. Looking forward to this big show on the CBC. Thank you, Eli.
My pleasure.
Now, most children can be pretty picky eaters, but for one 4-year-old, it was his openness to trying new foods that led him to being the youngest Juno Award nominee ever. Talia Ricci sat down with Romeo of Romeo Eats and his parents, who also happen to be well-known Canadian musicians.
Ever since Romeo was eating solid food, he ate everything, and we were super shocked.
What is that?
A radish.
A radish.
I would just be eating random stuff, and he would be like, "Dada, like, I want some." So I finally found my food soulmate.
These are the voyages of the young boy Romeo. His continuing mission to explore strange new tastes.
As we went along, as we knew that people were interested, we just said, let's make a show. And we put it together. We put a set together. We did a lot of research on all kinds of different fruits and vegetables and foods, and we ended up with a show.
Hello, Romeo homies. Johnny and Romeo here for another episode of...
Romeo, what are your 3 favorite foods?
The dragon fruit, the stinky fruit, and the mushrooms.
Let's crack this thing open.
And what do you think it is about Romeo Eats that resonates so much with people?
I think just the fact that he's 3 years old, 4 years old now, eating all these different foods and being so open-minded about food, which a lot of kids kind of are picky eaters and they don't want to try stuff and they're not willing to. So our whole goal was to not only make the show educational for parents, but also for kids, and to get people inspired to try new things.
Appetito. We get a lot of messages from people that are in their 30s and 40s that haven't tried certain things their whole life, and they're like, wow, after I saw Romeo's love for mushrooms, all of a sudden I love mushrooms now. Like, it's really inspiring to older people as well, which is very cool to see.
This one's delicious.
Romeo, something pretty exciting is happening to you. Can you tell me a bit about that?
The Junos.
And what is it about the Junos? You're nominated for?
Children's Album of the Year. Woo! We thought, how fun would it be to actually create a song for every single episode that has to do with whatever it is they're eating. So we started to do that, and in true Walk Off the Earth fashion, we took it, to the next level. We did every song in a different genre. We made the lyrics hilarious. We were laughing so much in the writing room. And then we ended up putting albums out with the different seasons.
And what do you think is going to happen at the Junos?
Do you think we might win? You do?
So how does it make you two feel to see him grow in this way and pursue these creative projects?
It makes me feel awesome, because I never want to have to force my kids to do anything. When they actually like things that I like, that makes me a very happy guy.
Oh, it appears he's not finished yet.
I think we're going to do a couple spin-offs. We already have one called Romeo Dines, where he gets invited to high-end restaurants and taste tests the whole menu. There's lots of fun things in the future for Rombo.
Today is Friday the 13th, and in Port Dover, that comes with the roar of motorcycle engines and tens of thousands of people. We asked riders what they like most about the day.
Just the camaraderie, the biker lifestyle.
It's an amazing place and an amazing celebration.
The trip out here was awesome. We had a great time. We had a bunch of new riders, old riders, just a bunch of good friends having fun, coming out to enjoy the day with a bunch of other riders, converging onto one location just with a common love
It's very crazy.
No, it's a lot of fun.
But it's a lot of fun.
Crazy but fun. This year marks 41 years since the beach town on Lake Erie became a spot for motorcycle enthusiasts to get together. The anniversary couldn't be marked in a big way for the past 2 years, of course, due to the pandemic. But this year, as you can see, streets, shops, and patios were packed once again with crowds taking full advantage of the warm temperatures. And they get to party all weekend in these temps, Dahlia?
Not so much, actually. But I will say today, even though it's the 13th, we were lucky with the weather, like as you saw. So we had those clear skies, which was giving us that lovely weather for today. And as we go into the current temperatures today, 23 degrees, but we had some humidity as well, which did feel more like around 28, 29. Windsor, 28. London, 26. Kingston, 23. And for tonight, it'll feel like 13 degrees by the evening. Feels like a summer evening. The afternoon for tomorrow, still in those double digits. Feels like summer. Make the most of it, because as we head into the next few days, Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is going to be 27 degrees. That's when we get that precipitation, and Monday as well. The weather starts to cool down, 21 degrees. But tomorrow, make the most of it. As you can see, 27 degrees, but it's going to feel like 32.
Thank you, Dahlia.
You bet.
That is it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe out there and have a great night, everybody.